Are you twisted enough for Twisted Minds escape rooms? Then check us out at twistedminds.com and book an adventure today. You can choose between Camp Calico or the mysteries of Vanished. How about travel back in time to 1840s California and visit Digger's General Store? Or get ready, coming late spring, early summer 2021, a little bit of mayhem at Twisted Minds escape rooms in Palm Coast. Check us out at twistedminds.com or give us a call at 888-92-TWIST. We'll be waiting.
Hey guys, sorry about that. As I was saying before we went to the word from our sponsor, I am flying solo this evening, so my apologies ahead of time. As you noticed, I forgot to turn the volume up on my mic. So my producer actually has a meeting regarding a business scenario that she had to be at. So that's why I'm flying solo tonight. So please pardon, any issues that arise, like me missing the volume of my mic there. Other than that, this evening's topic is something that's near and dear to my heart. It's the definition of a strong woman. Now, I want to be very clear and state that this is my definition. You may agree, you may disagree. That's cool. But this is my definition. And my definition comes from my experience with my grandmother and from the stories and the few years I had the opportunity to interact with my great-grandmother, my Vava. So with that said, let's go ahead and get into the topic this evening. So, a little foundation for this topic. First of all, I do want to say that a strong woman is someone who does recognize that fundamentally at the foundations, men and women are different, and we're different biologically, physiologically, and psychologically. Now, even though we have those differences, my earnest and honest and truthful opinion is that men and women are equal in value, even though we are different. But trying to say that men and women are equal is like trying to say an orange and a banana are equal. We're just not. But we do have equal value. And with that, I am a firm believer in that women should be respected. Women should have all the same opportunities to do and pursue what makes them happy, to have the liberty to do so. So I totally 100% agree with the women's right movement. I totally 100% agree with the fact that women should be able to vote, that women should have equal opportunity. So please don't misunderstand or misconstrue my concepts of what a strong woman is. I have nothing but respect for women. I'm a firm believer that it takes both men and women to truly accomplish and reach our maximum potential in life. I believe it was in episode 2 or episode 3 where I mentioned a biblical principle that talks about one person can accomplish 1,000 things, but two people can accomplish 10,000 things. And I'm a firm believer in that. It takes both of us to reach our max potential. It takes everyone to accomplish a lot of the things that have been accomplished. I mean, if you take a look back at just the last 100 years, and the amount of advancement in technology and discoveries that we have, it took everybody working on those things. Men, women, everyone. So in that aspect, I'm not necessarily referring to feminism. I'm not necessarily referring to or saying that women are less than men or men are less than women. I'm not saying any of that. All I'm going over tonight and all I'm talking about tonight is what I see and how I define what a strong woman is. So, with that said, let's go ahead and get into some of the points that we have for this. Let me get this up real quick. Okay, wonderful. So, point number one is that a strong woman is confident. She loves herself, she has a peaceful mind, and she doesn't compare herself to others. And I say that in the sense that she knows who she is, she knows what her worth is, she knows what her value is, she knows what she brings to the table, and she's confident in the fact that she has the ability and the skills to do what she pursues, what she wants to pursue. And for that, I have nothing but mad respect for her. My my grandmother and my great grandmother wouldn't have been able to accomplish the things that they did if they didn't have that kind of confidence. Your identity and your ability to have confidence within yourself should not be dependent upon what society tells you. At this point in your life, you've probably done some things, you've probably accomplished some things, you've probably set your mind to do some things to accomplish them, and you've probably either accomplished them or are on the verge of accomplishing them. And that in itself can be a source of confidence. And the lack of confidence that can be created from a woman comparing themselves to someone else is devastating. It does you no good. So a strong woman for me and to me is a woman who knows who she is, knows what she believes in, knows what she's capable of, and as a result, isn't swayed by what society says to her. She's able to be her own person and be confident in that, be secure in that. And that is a beautiful thing. To be honest with you, a woman that doesn't have that kind of confidence and is self-deprecating, not in a humorous way. You know, there's one thing to joke about our faults and make light of them, while at the same time understanding that they are a fault or that they are a weak point in our character and working on developing those things to make them better. That's one thing. That in itself is a beautiful thing. But if it's self-deprecating to the point that they're putting themselves down just because of something society said, or because they've compared themselves to someone else and they don't feel that they've measured up to that standard, And that becomes very unappealing. Um, and it it's a torment. It's a torment that you're putting on yourself. Um, it it bothers me personally a great deal when I see someone doing that. Um, because to me, um, and this is especially true when it comes to beauty, which is the reason why I used the photo that I did for this particular episode, because it comes from a photo series that I started to do and got interrupted because of for various reasons. But the series was called The True Beauty of Women, and it was all about um, a woman's natural ability because of who they are to influence the environment in the world around them in a positive way. And that's not even possible if a woman doesn't have confidence. So a strong woman will will inevitably, through her confidence and through the other characteristics that we'll go over tonight, um, actually has a positive influence on the environment around them, on the people around them. And that's a precious thing. That is a precious thing. It's a very beautiful thing. Now, the strong woman is also a productive woman. She gets the important things done, including relationship building. Um, and what I mean by this is because of her confidence, she has goals. And she recognizes and realizes that in order to achieve those goals, she has to set intermittent goals. So you'll always find a strong woman working toward one of her goals, um, whether that be in the professional environment or in the environment of her personal relationships, whether that be acquaintances, friendships, family, or a romantic interest or a spouse. Because we're all familiar with and we all think about professional goals and reaching those and what we're doing to work towards those, to achieve those. So if we want to make a certain amount of money within a certain amount of years, then we know we have to go through a particular process in order to get to that point. And we see those intermittent goals in between, and we are steadily working towards those. Um, a lot of times we don't think of it in terms of relationships, pardon me, but it also applies there. You know, if a relationship isn't necessarily where we want it to be, and we want that relationship to be in a certain place, then there are goals that should be set. There's communication that needs to take place. And in order for that kind of communication to take place, in order for those goals to be achieved, she has to be confident and she has to be working toward achieving those things. But then again, so does her partner. So does the significant other. So does the her interest, her spouse. The other person in the relationship also has to be a part of that process. But at the same time, if things don't go quite the way they're hoping for it to go, their confidence in their identity doesn't take a hit because of it. Um, they they will obviously do some self-reflection to figure out, okay, is there something that I'm doing that may be impeding this progress? But they're always productivity minded, and they're always progress minded, which in and of itself is a beautiful thing because life is hard. And no matter what we set out to do, there's always going to be something that is trying to resist us and resist us achieving our goals. Now, that confidence and the productivity aspect of things can help combat that, but there's also other attributes that come into play that can make a difference there, and that's why for me productivity includes so much more than just an end outcome and whether or not you achieve a goal. It's also what you're doing in the meantime to work towards that goal. So confident, productive, and those in combination together are a big part of producing an influence around them. Now, when I say influence, I'm talking influence in the sense of an inspirational way, because there's a fine line between influence and manipulation. Influence can very easily become manipulation, and manipulation is not a good thing. Nobody likes being manipulated. Manipulation usually ends up having negative results, and a strong woman recognizes that and will seek to create a positive influence to make progress in a positive direction. So, with that being said, that leads into and is a perfect segue into the fact that a strong woman is positive. She's the type of person that sees the glass as half full. She's encouraging, edifying, and growth minded. So, a strong woman, even when things aren't going well and there is resistance or just having a bad day, a strong woman is able to look at it and somehow bring a positive perspective to it, to see that silver lining. Kind of like the old adage about Edison and creating the light bulb, how he found 1,000 ways it didn't work, but he found the one way that it did work. And it was by going through finding those 1,000 ways it didn't work that he was able to find the one way that it did. Now, a strong woman will have that kind of mentality. And at the same time, she's also able to encourage people around them and edify them. Because a lot of times when we go through hard times and we're being resisted and stuff, it affects other people around us too. And by being able to maintain that positive perspective, she's able to encourage and edify those around her, even if she herself isn't feeling edified or encouraged, and maybe having some doubts herself. She still has that ability and that strength to be positive and encourage herself as well as others. And that is an amazing thing. That is a priceless treasure that is just amazing, and part of the beauty of women as a whole. It just, it's an incredible thing. And I mentioned and we talked earlier about the confidence and the productivity and achieving goals and such things. So the confidence, the productivity, the positivity all leads into the fifth characteristic of a strong woman, which is that she's goal-oriented. She pursues her dreams and she uses creativity and critical thinking to achieve it. So, and that becomes important because many times, especially in a professional environment, Um, Emotions have very little to do with the decisions that are made in a professional environment. So she's got to be able to have the ability to be creative and still critically think about the facts, the figures, the practicality of things, the efficiency of things, the proficiency of outcomes and processes, uh, and be able to work within those things and find creative ways to still bring about those goals and in creative ways to use what she knows from the critical thinking to blend all that stuff together. And when she does that, it not only benefits herself, but it ends up benefiting everyone around her, the environment around her. And in a professional environment, that's an awesome thing. Um, in the personal arena, it's even more awesome. Uh, and I think we've all seen examples of that where you could be planning to go on a trip or a vacation or something like that, and oh, women will stop and think about any possible scenario that they could possibly run into and end up trying to prepare for it. Um, but a strong woman will say and look at things like, okay, we're going on this vacation. What is the goal of the vacation? And depending on what that goal is, will determine how she packs, what she packs, and the things that she takes into consideration for what she anticipates to happen during that vacation and prepares for that. Um, and that again is an incredible thing, because in order to achieve our goals, many times we have to set our feelings aside. Because I know we've all experienced in the process of trying to achieve one of our goals, where we run into obstacles or resistance, or something has made it seem like we may not be able to achieve those goals. And if we're able to take a moment to step back, set the emotions aside, and look at the scenario in a critical way, then we're able to come up with creative solutions and still achieve that goal. And every single one of us at some point or another has had to do that. So I say this is, um, I say this is the topic of a strong woman, but in reality, it's really what is a strong person, because all of these characteristics are necessary and needed in strong people. Uh, but there are some differences again between the way it gets expressed among men versus the way it gets expressed among women. So that's why I went ahead and called it the strong woman, um, because a strong woman has that ability to be able to influence the environment around her and take take a man and make a king. Take this thing that's already good and then make it better. Um, Whereas men have a tendency, we will create something and we'll create it and make it good. But then a woman can see that and make it better. Now, men can too, but again, we're specifically, I'm specifically talking about the strong woman. Um, and this is all part of her characteristics and the things that she's able to accomplish when these characteristics are actually in place, and she is a strong woman. And I've mentioned several times, running into obstacles and resistance in accomplishing goals, and when she's goal oriented, that can be frustrating and it can be discouraging, which leads into the next characteristic of a strong woman, and that's that she is courageous. And what I mean by that is that she demonstrates courage in the presence of fear and still continues to work towards her goals. Being in the military for 18 years, having been in a combat zone, you know, we've all heard the stereotype that warriors and soldiers aren't afraid of anything. That's not true. We're human beings, just like everybody else. We have our fears. But the real definition of what courage is even in the presence or in the face of fear or while experiencing fear, you still press forward despite that fear to accomplish your goal, to accomplish your mission. So, relating it in terms of my experience, that would be like my squad being on a patrol and coming across what was known in World War II as a pillbox or machine gun nest, and having to rush it to take it out in order to save people's lives. Nobody wants to do that. That's scary. Because, when you think about it, a machine gun is hurling thousands of rounds per minute at you. So that's an incredibly scary thing. But there are tactics and there are strategies that can be used to accomplish it without people losing their life or minimizing the potential risk of it or minimizing the losses that are taken in the process of overcoming that pillbox. And when it comes to a strong woman's goals, especially the ones that are important to her, important to life, important to the family, important to her, this is the kind of mentality that she will take. That no matter what her fears are, no matter what her reprehensions are, she will still go forward in an effort to meet those goals. And using that creativity and that critical thinking that she possesses, find a way to make that happen. Whether that's be, communicating with a spouse or communicating with a friend or a family member or someone, just to hear herself talk through the situation until she literally talks herself into a solution. It's an amazing thing to watch. It's something definitely to be respected. To see someone be able to face their fear and still push forward and accomplish that goal. I mean, let's take for example, I personally don't watch them all that much. Occasionally I'll look it up on YouTube and watch an episode or two or something, just because I find some of the stories inspiring. But when you look at shows like American Idol or The X Factor or any of these other live talent type shows, some of the stories you hear from people and what they've faced and the amount of nervousness and the fear that they're facing and at that particular moment and stepping on that stage in front of thousands of people to perform, and yet they still go forward and do it. You can't help but respect it. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about a strong woman having courage and being courageous. So we will go on to the next point, which is that she has beliefs. In other words, she believes in something and stands for it. There's an old saying that I heard once that made a lot of sense to me. And I heard it when I was a child. I heard it again as a young adult. I heard it again as an adult several times. But the first person I ever heard it from was my grandmother. And she made the statement to me and said, "Son, you have to believe in something or you will fall for anything." So she does have her beliefs, and she's a firm believer in those beliefs. And you're not going to get a strong woman to come off of those beliefs. She will be that one that literally lives what she believes, that her beliefs motivate what she does and how she does it. Even in those moments where it's not comfortable, it may be something that she doesn't want to do, doesn't feel like doing, but because of her beliefs, she'll still do it, even if it hurts. Um, it's a belief system that keeps her integrity intact, gives her a strong character, and that in combination with everything else we've talked about, as you can see, is just an amazing person, amazing woman. Um, it just, because the beliefs are the core of who we are as people. And if our beliefs can be easily overthrown, then why did we believe it to begin with? Especially if those beliefs are, pardon me, are founded on facts, truth, reality, practicality. These are all things that add up to, you know, factual things. It's the truth. It's reality, and in a way, it doesn't even require belief. It just requires an acknowledgement that it is what it is, and she works with it. But at the same time, she also has beliefs because on things sometimes you don't have facts for. You can't find facts for. You don't have them, but based on experience and based on seeing other people's experiences, she will have developed a belief system that she lives by and stands by, that she knows works. Now, if something else were to come along and prove that belief to be wrong, she's also flexible enough, because she has the strength to be able to say, okay, let's relook at this. Maybe there's another perspective. Let's take that into consideration. Let's see if I need to change. And if I need to change, what do I need to change and how do I need to change? And that is extremely commendable in anyone, woman, man, in anybody. It's a commendable trait. And a strong woman will have this. And because of the fact that she's confident, she's productive, she's positive, she's goal-oriented, she's courageous, and she has beliefs, she's also going to be a woman who is proud. Proud of her accomplishments without an arrogance. And that's a sense of pride in herself without arrogance, and doesn't find it necessary to put other people down, because her pride in what she has achieved, what she has accomplished, and where she is going, mixed with her confidence, she knows she doesn't have to put anyone else down. She's strong enough that she's more than capable, and she can do it. And no matter what anyone else thinks, she can still do it. And the things that she's already done, you can't change that. And if she's made positive impacts and made positive changes, there's nothing to not be proud about. So it, it's an amazing thing. I just, every time I think about this subject and think about this kind of a woman, it blows my mind. And I have nothing but mad respect and just love a strong woman. How could you not? And with that pride and all these other things that we've already discussed and talked about, it leads to her ability to be content. In other words, happy with who they are and how their lives are. Now, that's not saying that she's satisfied with who she is and how her life is. Because satisfaction and contentment are two different things. All right. Because you can be content with what you have and happy if things never advance beyond that point. But she wants them to. Because she's always pursuing making things better, improving things. So contentment is happiness with where they're at, but not satisfied. Because being satisfied means, okay, I've got enough. I don't need anything more. I don't need anything better. I am completely satisfied to sit right here. I am happy with this, and I'm not going anywhere else. Whereas contentment is, okay, I'm happy with this. This is pretty cool. I like this. I've accomplished a lot. I've got a lot. My life is in a good place. I'm in a good place. But I think we can do better. And then continues to strive for making things better. And to figure out how to make things better and how they could be better, and then pursue that. So this strong woman is in a constant state of progress, a constant state of confidence in all these characteristics that are brought up, but always content, always content, and grateful for the things that she has, and that characteristic alone is an incredible characteristic. Let's see. Oop. Let me pull this up. All right. So that brings me to the next point. Because unless she's content, you're not going to be capable of caring. And what I mean by caring is that they care for themselves and those around them, and they're kind and they're compassionate. If you're in a state of discontent, state of frustration, a state of disapproval, and you're viewing yourself in those terms, then it is impossible for you to be able to care for yourself and care for those around you. Impossible for you to be kind to people or even compassionate to people. And because if you're upset with yourself and you're not happy, then you're going to express that. And when you express that, then you're not going to be kind. That frustration, that anger, that bitterness, that unforgiveness, that disappointment, that frustration, that irritation is going to come out, and it's going to come out on other people. And in the worst possible scenario, come out on your family, on your children, on your spouse, on your parents, on your brothers, on your sisters. The worst case scenario, right? But a strong woman, in combination with all the other characteristics that I've talked about, has the ability to still be caring, kind, compassionate, and courteous and thoughtful of the people around them. And in fact, it's probably one of our goals, to do that. And not just do it, but to be continuously improving and getting better at it. And that's the outward expression of the inner characteristics that we've already talked about that create that innate ability for a woman to positively influence the environment around them and generates a beauty about them that is just absolutely incredible. You know, in one person in particular that I think of in recent times that I would consider to be a strong woman and a very beautiful woman was a young lady that I went to school with. She's confined to a wheelchair. I want to say that it was muscular dystrophy. I haven't seen her in a while. I had the honor or privilege of speaking to her in a while. But this young lady, despite the physical restrictions that she faced, she went to art school and she got her degree. And she got her degree in film. Now, I don't know what you guys know about filmmaking, but filmmaking is a pretty physically demanding field to be in. But for this young lady, despite all of that, she was determined. She knew who she was. She was confident in herself, and she pursued it, and she achieved her goal. And the entire time, despite all the resistance and discouragements and obstacles that she must have faced, never once have I seen her treat someone in an uncaring fashion. Well, I take that back. There was one time somebody did something pretty snotty to her, and she snipped back. And to be honest with you, it was perfectly deserved. But overall, her general character is one of kindness, one of compassion, one of consideration. She's just an amazing young lady. And my life is better for having had her in it. And I'm thankful for that opportunity to have had her in my life for that season. But yeah, it just caring is a part of the character of a strong woman that really sets her apart from basically what society in general is telling women today. Now, I say that at the risk of getting some backlash from people. And you know what? I don't care. If you're gonna hate, hate. The reality of the fact is that this is the one aspect of a strong woman that drastically differs from what I see in society. When I hear people say strong, independent woman. All right. And here's why I say this. Okay. Because the general concept is women don't need men. Because women can do everything a man can do and do it better. Well, as I stated in the beginning of this, that's not true. Now, there are some women that can do the things that men do and do them better. That's the exception to the overall general rule. But as I stated clearly in the beginning, men and women are different. And because of that, there are some things that men are better suited for, and there are some things that women are better suited for. It doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It means we have equal value, but we are different. Okay? And that's where I'm coming from on this, because, and I know some of you aren't going to agree with me on this, but for me, and the way I was raised, and from my perspective, when I see a woman about to walk through the door, I'm going to go and open that door for them. Now, I'm not doing it because she's incapable of opening that door. As a matter of fact, I know perfectly well she is capable of opening that door. But for me, what I'm doing is I'm demonstrating that I hold her at a higher value than I hold myself. And I'm attempting to show my respect for her as a woman and attempting to honor her as a woman by humbling myself in order to serve her. Okay? So when I do that for a woman, that's what's going through my head. That's my perspective of what's happening there. And I know it's a simple thing, but it's a good example of what I'm getting at here. Okay? Now, I've taken women on dates when I was younger. And I opened the door for him. I pulled out the chair for him. I did the gentlemanly thing because me, by nature, I am a gentleman. I respect and I honor women, and that's how I show it. But when I did this, on one particular occasion, well, it happened a few times, but one particular occasion that stands out in my mind immediately, I opened the door for this young lady, and when I did, she stopped dead in her tracks, turned and squared off to me, stared me right in the eyes, and said, "How dare you degrade me like that? I am perfectly capable of opening that door for myself." And she nutted me and said, "Don't ever do it again." Now, there was absolutely no call for that. That was probably the most uncaring way she could have dealt with that. And it demonstrated to me a certain level of insecurity and confidence in herself. And when she did that, I'm sorry guys, but that was just straight up abusive. I was being kind. I was being respectful. And trying to do something good on her behalf. And to get repaid like that, nah, that's not something I'm going to tolerate. So, whether you agree with this or not, I went ahead and said in my high, squeaky voice after having been nutted, "Okay, go ahead. Open the door yourself. I'm cool with that." She opened the door, walked inside. I walked back to my car and I went home. Never went out on another date with her again. That's not a strong woman, guys. That's not a strong woman. I'm sorry. That's an abusive woman. That's a bully. And I'm not going to tolerate that. I don't like it. I don't appreciate it. If a guy were to do something like that, what do you think people would say? It's not acceptable at all. It's not acceptable for anyone to do it. Period. All right? Now, you say, well, that was just one incident. Okay, well, I'm not going to sit here and spend the remainder of my time talking about how I've been slapped, spit on, publicly humiliated, multiple times over of each of those for just being a gentleman. So, anymore nowadays, I wait until I know who I'm dealing with before I act like a gentleman anymore. And that's a sad state of affairs. I'm sorry, but it is. And that's not a strong woman. A strong woman inspires positivity, sees what's going on around her, and acknowledges it, appreciates it. A strong woman in that instance is capable of looking at it and seeing that a guy is humbling himself to provide, to act in service to her, honoring her, respecting her, realizing and knowing full well that she's capable of opening that door for herself. But if you stop and think about the days of the kings and queens, and you stop and think about any movie you've ever seen where there's been a king or a queen who was the lead role, did you ever see them open their own doors? Did you ever see them pull out their own chairs? No. And that was something that was reserved for kings and queens. So, just saying. That's all part of caring. And on the final note, since I'm almost out of time here, let's go ahead and get into it. And be real quick about this so we can get to some question and answers for you. All right? She's self-secure. She knows who she is and isn't. And others' opinions can't touch that. All right? And everything that we've talked about up to this point leads into that self-securedness. Okay? She knows she's going to be okay with or without a man. But she appreciates her man and wants her man around. And appreciates the things that he brings to the table. But she doesn't need him. She can do it on her own. And she knows it. But at the same time, she also knows that she can make her man's life better. And in the process of making her man's life better, she can make her own life better. And that's an incredible trait. It's a rare trait these days. But that, to me, guys, is what a strong woman is. That, to me, guys, is what the first two waves of feminism was about. Was waking men up to those concepts. Because to me, the ultimate definition of a strong woman, even above that which I learned from my grandma and my great-grandma, comes from the Bible. And it comes out of the book of Proverbs, written by Solomon, considered to be the wisest man to ever live on the face of the planet. And in the 31st chapter, It gives a description of a virtuous woman. And if you read that, look it up and read it. And if you look it up and read that, you will see a strong woman. A strong woman. And it pretty much hits just about every point that I've talked about tonight. All right. So with that said, let me pull up the chat here. Let's see if we got anybody on. I don't see any chat messages. Guys, if you want to call in, you can use that number right there, because I'm opening it up now for questions and answers. If you have any questions for me, or anything else, or any comments or whatever, feel free to leave it in the chat or give me a call at that number. Real quick, I'm going to check and see if we got anybody on right now. Doesn't look like we do. So I'm going to go ahead and call it a night then. A little bit early with a couple of minutes to spare. So I'm going to give it a couple of seconds though, because I know there's a delay between me talking and my computer sending it out to Facebook and YouTube before you guys see it. So yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or anything like that, please go ahead and put that in the chat or give me a call. And with that, I'm going to say thanks for tuning in, the few of you that did. I appreciate your support. I appreciate you being here. If you would, like, share, comment, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you guys can be aware of when I do these again. I'm going to do another one next week, and it looks like I'm going to probably start getting into some of my military experiences, and I'll probably start with my experience in basic training. Because back then, it was a bit different from what I'm hearing it is today. But I know some of you have asked for that, so I think we'll start getting into that next week. But, all right, with that said, guys, I appreciate it. Again, make sure to like, share, subscribe, etc., etc. It helps me out, if I can get enough followers and enough stuff going on and get some people to assist and help out with the production costs of all of this stuff. We can probably take it farther. I can get in some guests to speak and whatnot, and see where things go. But with that, thank you very much for tuning in, and we will see you next week.